Hello guys, gals, and non-binary pals, welcome back to my channel, and today we're continuing with the job-specific crafting and gathering videos, and today we're of course doing Alchemist. I'll show you how you can make millions of gil with only your Alchemist, and whether you're max level or low level, there is something here for everyone. All the lists and presets that will be mentioned in this video will of course be in the blog post. So with all that being said, let's get into it. Now, Alchemist is a lot different than the other crafters like Leatherworker and Weaver, but it is quite similar to Culinarian. Your main focus is normally at Endgame to craft potions for raiding, and you can make a lot of gil just by doing that. But there are a lot of other things that Alchemist is great at, such as intermediates, glamours, and more. And of course, we'll be covering all of that here. But like the other crafters, we of course have low level lists and 3 lists to be specific. So let's go ahead and take a look at them now. We have job quest items, as per usual, every crafter does, worthwhile leveling gear with Alchemist, and you're going to be focusing on job gear instead of crafting and gathering gear with Alchemist. And Alchemist lead quests from 70 to 90, so pretty similar to the other ones since it is low level, but of course we can still make a ton of gil with these 3 if you are low level, or you don't have the best stats, or you simply just want to craft something easier with less investment. And here is the first list. Level 1 to 60 Alchemist job quest items for profit. And I've seen some people asking, I'm kind of unsure how to use Team Craft. It's very simple. All you have to do is open the list, and all the stuff on the side, it's the information that you'll need to craft. You need to be level 21 for this one. Of course, all these are made by Alchemist, as shown by the job icon here. You can also buy these items from the vendor, but specifically we're crafting them high quality since that's what's needed for the job quest. And if you're wondering, what are job quest items anyway? As you go along with your crafter quests, as you should, you are required to turn in high quality items, which are these. Some people don't bother doing them until later and they want to just get through it fast, so they go ahead and buy it off the market board, or some people might not be able to craft it at high quality when they are low level, so they go and buy it from the market board, and that's where we can of course step in. If you haven't done your crafter class quests, I highly recommend doing so, because after level 60 you start to unlock specific crafter abilities which are really crucial for endgame crafting. And the quests are fun of course as well, so we really recommend doing that. But of course, let's go ahead and see how much we'll make and how much we'll spend on the crafts. So up here, fill prices based on market board prices, and this will fill in all the items that you need to go ahead and craft these items. The spending amount up here at the top is how much you're spending on the materials. And I'll go down here to fill prices based on market board prices, your server only, which fills in the prices for your server which you'll be selling at. And now once that's all filled in, you have the investment, the money you'll make back, and the profit down at the bottom. Now items that are shown to have a 6 here is because every time you craft one craft, you'll get 3 items back, which is typical for a lot of Culinarian and Alchemist crafts. Otherwise, you're only crafting around 2 or 1 per each. You can double up or triple up if you want to, especially if you notice something is selling quite often. And these lists are really good at the start of expansion or anytime there is new crafter content available. Some items I recommend is the Noble Gold, craftable at 7.7k per each, but you can sell it at high quality for 72,000. Even if you wanted to sell it at normal quality, you could. It is sellable at 42,000. The next item is the engraved hard leather grimoire, craftable at 3.3k, but sellable at high quality for 94,000. And here is the next list, worthwhile leveling gear with Alchemist. And Alchemist can craft the weapons for Summoner and Scholar. And if you craft this entire list, you're spending only 54,000 in materials, but you're making back 839,000 with a profit of 785,000, which is really good. And each of these items you only have to craft 1 of. If you want to double up, you can of course. Some of these items are used for glamour, like the Blue Spirit Grimoire and Codex, since they kind of glow in the dark without having to unsheath. Craftable at 4.1 thousand, you can sell it for 42,000 each. Some of these items are used for lead quests, like the Conveyor Skin Codex, craftable at 4.2k, and sellable at high quality for 111,000. Even lower level items like the Archaea Skin Codex, craftable at 4.2k but sellable at 104,000 at high quality, or you can sell it at low quality for 22,000. In my last video, I made a point to always check whether or not you're crafting at a profit. Of course, we're checking down here at the price to craft, but of course always checking the materials as well, since sometimes crafting from scratch is not always worth it. Like the Titan Bronze Nugget, craftable at 933 gold, you can go on Omega and buy it for 80 EPs. Even if you wanted, for some reason, high quality, maybe you're low level and you don't have the best stats, you can still buy high quality at Scrip for 134 gil. And the next and final list for low level crafting is Alchemist League Quest 7290. So you do have to be a little bit higher level, but of course you don't need good stats to craft these items, although you do have to craft them at high quality. And here is the priced list. Spending 326k, a little bit more than the other list, but you're making a lot more back. 3.7 million back with a profit of 3.3 million. Again, any number with a 9 is because you turn this in 3 times per leave quest, so people tend to buy in 3s. If you see a number 27, it's because you craft 3 per each craft, such as Alchemist does. So with 9 crafts, so with 3 turn-ins per leave quest, you're gonna end up with 27 items, but only with 9 total crafts. And again, we're always crafting high quality because people get double the experience when you turn in high quality leave quest items. My favorites tend to be the Ophiuchus Magitech Codex, craftable at 3.9k but sellable at 99,000. The Cabera Skin Grimoire, craftable at 5.6k but sellable at 122,000. So take a look at these lists, especially for low level. This is a great place to start. Some of them are a little bit slower to sell since it is not endgame and not everybody is needing all these items since they are not common items, but you're not going to be dealing with a whole lot of undercutting. You don't need a ton of investment, and that sometimes these lists are really good, like with the start of an expansion or like 6.35. When people need their crafters at least 80, they're going to be trying to level as quickly as possible, and league quests are a great way to do that. Next up are intermediates, and Alchemist has a ton of amazing intermediates that are used daily for a ton of furniture, leveling items, endgame items, job gear, crafter gear, etc. There is so much, and Alchemist tends to be on the more expensive side of things, which is great for us. So let's go ahead and take a look at the list. Next up is Alchemist Intermediates. Now, this list is pretty large, but don't worry, you don't want to craft the entire thing. We're mainly focusing on what's best. My favorites tend to be the Mortar, craftable at 735. You can sell each one for 900 gil. And the best part, people buy a ton of this at a time. It's low level, and especially when there is new housing, this sells very quickly and a lot at a time. Same thing with Matron, craftable at 292 per each, but sellable at 500 gil each. Varnish, craftable at 1.5k, Crystal Glass, craftable at 1.6 thousand, but sellable for 2.9, and my favorite personally, Tempered Glass, craftable at 12.5k, but sellable for 31,000. Whenever there is new housing, people want to go ahead and use exteriors. Exteriors require quite a lot of these, so these sell exceptionally well whenever there is new housing or an expansion to the housing wards. But even without it, it still sells really well and for quite a lot. There are some enchanted inks here, but my favorite inks tend to be the Platinum ink, craftable at 700 gil, but sellable for 14,000, and the Manganese ink, craftable at 1.4k, but sellable for 9,240. You can choose what you want to go ahead and craft. There is a lot here, and craft, of course, more than one. You can craft a full stack of 99, sell it in intervals of 25 or 50, or you can also just post a whole stack, and whenever people buy out your inventory, you just replace it and keep going. And now let's move on to the next list. Next up is Masterbook items, my personally favorite section. There is a ton here, so let's quickly go over it. And here is the list. If you're wondering what Masterbook you need per each item, it shows right here on the side, and all you have to do is go ahead and unlock it. If you're curious on how to unlock a specific Masterbook, I do have a video on that, so I'll link it down below. But if you have all your Masterbooks, that's great. If you don't, you can go to pricing mode, see what's best on your server, and you can go ahead and start choosing what Masterbook you want to unlock first. And here is the full list. There are a ton of items here: Glamour, Orchestrion rolls, furniture, and other things. But if you craft this entire list, you'll be spending 1.9 million, but making back in profit 3.9 million. There are some really great items here, like the Phase Crown Grimoire, craftable at 375,000. Quite a bit, but you're making back a million total. There are some intermediates here, like the Veteran Tree Sap, 7.4 thousand, but sellable at 431,000. The Hawk's Eye Sand, craftable at 7.2 thousand, but sellable at 20,000. We do have some attire augmentation sets, which is the way you can dye your Rememberborn relic gear. You have to buy the attire augmentation chests, and some of them are really good, like the Healer's Attire, 14,000 to craft. You can sell it for 178,000, and the best part, it is, of course, low level. We do have the Rememberborn Perfect Intermediates, which is of course used for the relic weapons. Perfect Pounce, craftable at 21,000, but sellable at 62,000. With Orchestrion rolls, there are a ton of Orchestrion rolls, and we have a full section on that later, but every time there is a new trial or anything that you can go ahead and craft, do it immediately, since the weather pieces are quite cheap, especially if someone doesn't bother crafting. They usually put it up on the market board just to get rid of them. You can buy that and immediately turn it into a Orchestrion roll, and you'll make a ton of gil since it is brand new. But even if the trial is a little bit older, depending on what it is, you can still make a ton of gil. Something like Answers, the Orchestrion roll, craftable at 74,000, but you can sell it for 183k. It's a little bit older, but still you can make a ton of gil. So take a look, see what you want to go ahead and craft, and let's move on to the next section. This section is Glamour. Now there are a few Glamour pieces, but it's usually just some necklaces or bracelets, which is pretty good to go ahead and craft, like the White Sweet Pea necklace, but you're going to make a majority of your gil with Glamour with the weapons. Again, you're crafting for the Scholar and the Summoner. Depending on what level you are, we of course have trial weapons from Rememberborn, Heavensward, Stormblood, and Shadowbringers. If you're crafting from Rememberborn or Heavensward, you need to be really checking the price to craft, since some of the items can be brought back from Palace of the Dead loot boxes or Eureka loot boxes, Boja loot boxes, stuff like that. Stormblood and Shadowbringers tends to bring a ton more money, but you're going to be spending a lot more in the materials. Rememberborn Heavensward, it is a lot cheaper to craft these items, but again, you have to be careful and you have to be mindful of the price to craft. But let's go ahead and take a look at all these items. And here's the list for the Rememberborn Glamour weapons. Again, this list is for every class, so you want to come towards the bottom, and here is all the Alchemist craftable weapons. And it also shows what Masterbook you need for each weapon, so if you're wondering how to get started on these crafts, you do need your Masterbook. Let's go ahead to pricing mode and see how much it will make. And here is the list, and only the items towards the bottom is Alchemist able to craft. A great way to see it, if there is a Grimoire or a Codex, that's usually what Scholar and Summoner weapons are called. But the Infernal Grimoire, craftable with 36,000 investment, sellable for 136,000, which seems to be really the only good one from Rememberborn. That's why you really have to be careful and check the price to craft. Rememberborn is okay. There's way too many other ways to get these items. I really recommend just sticking with Heavensward if you are low level, and if you're max level or high level, then Stormblood and Shadowbringers is the way to go. But let's go ahead and see Heavensward. And this is already looking a lot better. With 1.7 million in an investment, you do get back 10 million with an 8.3 million in profit. But of course, Alchemists can't craft all these. We're looking for the Grimoires and the Codexes. The Word of the Demon, craftable at 15,000, but sellable for 257,000. The Seeing Horde Grimoire, craftable at 18k, but sellable at 147. The Dead Hive Grimoire, craftable at 16,000, but sellable for 89,000. Again, all the Alchemist craftable items are towards the bottom, and there are a few good here, which is better than a Rememberborn, but again, it could be better if you're higher level. And here is the Stormblood weapons and Glamour, a lot better with 10.9 million in investment, but you are making back 42 million. Go towards the bottom, and with the Sanos Rapturous Codex, craftable at 28k, but sellable for 411. Byaku's Inspirited Codex, craftable at 91,000, but sellable for 300k. Tsukiyomi's Moonlit Codex, craftable at 93,000, but sellable for 594k, which is a lot better than the other two lists, but again, you have to be higher level. And here is the Shadowbringers trial weapons, a lot more spending, but again, a whole load of profit. My personal favorites do tend to be the Phase Crown items. The Phase Crown Codex, craftable at 372, but sellable for 1 million. The the Face Crown Glamour, craftable at 370 but sellable for 1 million. The FFXIV items are a bit cheaper to craft if you don't have a ton of investment. 200k for each of these to craft but sellable at 388 and 431. And that's it for the weapon Glamour. Of course, with every patch, you're gonna get more Shadowbringers weapons. Again, it's great to craft them at the very start, but you're gonna have to deal with quite a bit of undercutting. Either way, this is a great way to make a ton of gil, but you're gonna need a bit of investment. Now, let's move on to the next section. Next up is Endgame. Now, I usually advise against Endgame crafting when it comes to gear, but with raiding potions, it is something you can make a ton of gil with, and it is relatively easy, albeit a bit boring. You're gonna mostly be just macro crafting, which if that's your cup of tea, that's great. If it's not, you want something a little bit more interactive, then I would probably skip this. But if you aren't interested in endgame crafting and don't mind pressing a macro every 30 seconds, then this is a great way to make a ton of gil. Now, when this goes out, these potions are currently current, but whenever the new raid tier comes out, you're gonna have to craft the newest potions, since every time there is a new raid tier, a new tier of potions is released. And you don't want to use last tier's potions because you're not gonna get the same benefit. But of course, let's go ahead and see what we've currently got. And here is the food and pots for patch 6.2. You're crafting grade 7 tinctures of strength, dexterity, intelligence, and mind. If you see tenacity, don't bother with it. Nobody really uses it, and if there is a use case, it's not used often, and usually you would just skip that. So all the other grade 7s are good, and you can also craft the Cutting Craftsman's Drought, which is level 89, and you don't need max level gear to go ahead and craft this. But people use it all the time for crafts, especially whenever new content comes out with crafting. People buy a ton of this at a time so they can boost their stats by a bit. But let's go ahead and see how much we can make just our grade 7 tinctures and our droughts. If you deselect all the food, then you're left with only the Alchemist craftables. If you spend 2.2 million, you will make back in profit 1.3 back. Remember, with only 100 crafts, you do get 300 items back. If you craft the Cutting Craftsman's Drought, craftable at 833 gil, you will sell it at high quality for 2.6 thousand, which is the same price as the max level tinctures. The grade 7 tincture of strength, craftable at 1.7 but sellable at 2.8 thousand at high quality. The mind and strength potions tend to sell the best, I've noticed, but all of them sell equally well and usually are around the same price to craft. Again, if you don't mind macro crafting, this is a great way to make gil. One thing you can do to ensure that you'll sell quite a lot at a time is check when your server is raiding. The way I do it is I check Party Finder and see how many groups there are looking around. If you take note of the times, then you know exactly when to have stuff prepared and when to either keep it until later or when to sell. And now let's go on to the next section. And the next section is furniture. There are a lot of great furniture pieces with Alchemist, since Alchemist crafts a ton of leafy green furniture items which people love, like myself, to put in their house. Whenever there is a lot of new wards or houses, or if you are on a server that has available housing like Sagittarius or Phantom, this is a great way to make gil, and of course with only furniture. Let's go ahead and take a look at the list. And here are the items. If you craft this entire list, you're spending 1.3 million but making back in profit 2.4 million, which is pretty good since each of these items are crafted 1-to-1. The Dravonian Downtree, craftable at 5.6 thousand but sellable at 104,000. This is great if you are lower level, but none of these require a super expensive endgame set or the best endgame stats. The Time-Worn Thaumaturgic Array, craftable at 400k, which is a lot more expensive than usual, but sellable at 724,000. So there are some pretty expensive items here. The Lotus Parasol, craftable at 566,000, but sellable for 1 million. The Water Lilies, craftable at 725,000, but sellable for 1.8 million. So you can make quite a bit here, but you are going to be spending quite a bit. But you can craft cheaper things like the Solid Brick Interior Wall, 7.5, sellable for 26,000. The Botanist Garden, 3.6 thousand, but sellable for 59,000, and so on. Pick and choose what you want to craft, what you can afford to craft, and you'll make quite a bit of money. But now let's move on to the next. Next up is Scrip crafting. Now, if you have watched the Leatherworker and Weaver video, this of course will be basically the same thing, but since new people are watching each video individually, I will go over it again. If you want to skip this section, you can. There's nothing really new here, but if you want to know more about crafting with your scripts with the Alchemist, then continue watching. Here is the White Crafter script farming. This shows you how much you're spending on each craft and how much you can make back by buying the correct items per 2,000 scripts. And for Alchemist, you're crafting the the Drought, Manganese, Ink, Gel, Grimoire, Codex, Mithril Grimoire, all the way up here. And depending on what you're crafting, it might be lower level like the Dwarven Mithril Grimoire, but you're spending a lot more and you're gonna have to craft a ton more to just get to 2,000 scripts. I of course craft myself the Rarefied Drought, craftable at 2.5 at 2.7 thousand each, but you only have to craft 13 of them to get to 2,000 scripts. So all you have to do is select the Rarefied Drought, nothing else here, and select what you want to buy. So let's say I want to buy Cutting Materia 5s. I would be spending 35,000 in materials, but I would be making back 105,000 if I buy these Cutting Materia 5s. Let's say I want to buy some Grip Gel, I'm going to be spending again still 35,000 per 2,000 scripts, but I'll make back 76,000. But we also have purple scripts, and this is the purple script crafting for Alchemist. You are only crafting the Rarefied Ophiutorus Magitech Codex. You need 4 to hit 2,000 scripts, and depending on what you want to buy, you can of course make guilds. So for 4 crafts, you're spending 14k in materials, but you're making back 47,000 if you buy Sunset Carrot. You're spending 14,000 again in materials, but if you buy a Command Materia 10, you'll make back 20,000. If you want the immutable solution, you only need 2 crafts to craft, so you can lower this to 2, and even though it doesn't update the number here, it will update the price up here. So you're spending 7k in materials, but you're only making back 4,000. So do be careful with what you want to buy. Immutable solutions tend to not be very profitable if you do buy them with your purple scripts. You'd much rather buy materia or buy crafting materials, which is used for endgame food. But now let's move on to the next section. And the second to final section is Orchestrion roles. There is a ton of Orchestrion roles in the game, and like I said earlier, if there is anything new that drops the faded pieces for Orchestrion roles, and especially if there are some songs that are super popular and are really good, then you can make a ton of gil by either crafting them first or focusing on the most popular ones and crafting them like that. In total, there are 102 items here, and Alchemist is the only one that can craft Orchestrion roles. But if you go towards the top, these are the duty farmed Orchestrion roles, so you have to scroll to the bottom and see what you can craft down here. There is a recipe that requires a Masterbook. You will see it on the side, along with the level you have to be to craft this recipe. The way I did it at first is I went on YouTube and checked the most popular Final Fantasy OSTs, checked which Orchestrion role it is in game, and I went ahead and crafted it that way. But let's go ahead and see the price to craft. And here is the filled in Orchestrion list. There is a lot here, but don't feel intimidated. Pick and choose what you want to craft with the investment and see what's most popular or what's the newest. The Forged in Crimson is craftable with 3.6k gil, but sellable for 52,000. The Final Day, craftable with 61,000 investment, but sellable at 200k. There is a lot here, but with relatively cheap investment, you can make a ton of gil with just Orchestrion roles. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Hopefully this can put you on the right track to making a ton of gil with only your Alchemist. Next up is Culinarian, and of course we're going to cover all the crafters and all the gatherers. Again, all the lists will be of course in the blog post, and if you're curious about the race change, it's not going to be permanent. It's only for a little while, and you know, I think she's pretty darn cute. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you to all our YouTube members, Twitch subs, and Discord boosters. You all keep the channel going. Like, comment, subscribe if you want to, and I will hopefully see you in the next video. Bye bye.